Okay, perfect. All right. All right. What's good, everybody? Mr. Peters here with you guys today. This is our third live stream session. Hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to focus on some multiple choice questions, trying to prepare for the Florida EOC exam. So, we're going to have multiple choice questions. So, that means just be a little patient with me. I am going to be writing out some of these problems. So, when we look at our first problem, they're asking us to solve for x. And even though it looks like a very simple problem, there's one error that we can make that could definitely give us the wrong answer. So once we go through and we start solving the problem, right? So let's say I combine my x's. We should get -5 is equal to 3x plus 8. Now, the reason students can get this problem wrong is by incorrectly adding or having the wrong sign when trying to add. So this is what I mean. Imagine you subtracted 8 and you subtract 8 on this side. So this is the key point where students can make a mistake. So what happens is students will think, okay, I'm subtracting two negative numbers, so they think they have to add. So they think this right here is saying -5 minus -8, and then they would basically make 8 positive. So what I want to tell you guys is that this would be wrong, okay? That's not what it's saying. It's saying we have -5 and we're going to subtract 8. So what this means is we're going to add both of those numbers and just keep that negative sign in front. So we'll get -13 is equal to 3x. Now, for us to finish off the problem now, we're just going to divide and understand. This is another step where students make a mistake. They may think that they need to divide by -13 and then say, hey, my answer is 3/13, and that's not correct. All right. The correct answer, once we finish off this problem, should be letter choice D, right? X is by itself now it's equal to -13/3. And this is the only answer that matches that. So when you're solving equations on a test on the EOC, guys, just make sure you double check that you added correctly, because something like this could have happened and we could actually end up with the answer choice of A and B just because we added wrong at a certain step. Okay, so I'm going to erase this step, and then we're moving from equations. In our second problem, we're going to be talking about simplifying an expression with basically exponents. So we're working with polynomials and exponents, okay? So our second problem says, and I'm just going to write it down. I'm not going to say the whole thing. All right, so Eric wants to divide. And let's put this in a different color so it could stick out. So we're going to take 3x to the third yz plus 27. And matter of fact, let me just take this paper out so it's a little faster. All right, 27 x to the fourth y3z squared. And we're going to divide this all by 3x squared yz. So, and I'm going to write down the answer choices as well. So like I said, guys, I apologize about the how slow I'm going to write these problems, but we want to get some multiple choice problems so that we can mimic the EOC as closely as possible. And I'm going to show you guys how to properly solve this problem and an easy method that we could do it. All right. So we wrote the entire problem down now, and this is how we're going to approach it. So what they try to do to confuse us, I really want you guys to know, is they write it like this. So my thing to you guys is let's rewrite this in a format that's easy for us to follow. And the way that I did this, right? So we're adding these two things and we're dividing both of them by 3x squared yz. So I'm visual. So I'm going to put 3x to the third yz all over what we're dividing by, right? 3x squared yz. And we're going to add 27x to the fourth y3z squared. All right. So they have the same denominator, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat this kind of like two different fractions. So when I look at this first fraction, right, remember that the rules of fractions apply and the rules of exponents apply. So when we're talking about exponents, right, we're going to subtract our exponents, meaning 1 minus 1 is 0. So this is canceled, right? This is it's canceled, it's gone. Same thing with y to the first minus y to the first. So I'll write this out, y1. So they're both to the first power. So we'll get y to the 0 power, and we should know that anything to the 0 power is just 1. So we do not need to write that 1, right? We just cancel it out like we would in a fraction. Now I get to this part right here, and at this part, when I do 3 minus 2, I'm going to have x to the first power. So this x is still going to be there, right? And then my 3, same thing, it cancels as well, right? Plus. So now we simplified the first fraction, and hopefully that was an easy simplification for you all, right? And now we're going to go to the next problem. So what I'm going to do here, I noticed that I have a number, I have numbers, right? Coefficients. So I could kind of use process of elimination. So I know right here, 27 divided by 3, that should give me 9, right? So as I'm looking at this problem, I already know based on how it started, D cannot be the answer and A can't be the answer, right? But let's keep on going. So we took care of that part. Then now we have x to the fourth minus x squared. So that's going to give us x to the second power. And then what we're going to do is do the same thing with y to the third. And just remember, if there is no exponent, that means this has a power of 1. So when we do y to the third minus y1, we're going to get y squared. And then at the very last part, when we do z squared minus z to the first power, we are just going to have z by itself. So right here, this should be our answer after we divide. So remember, when we divide, our answer is the quotient. So in the problem, they may say, hey, identify the quotient, or what is the quotient to this problem, and you have to know that means division. Some students may think they're supposed to take both of these expressions and multiply it. Okay, so just make sure you guys understand if there's words in the problem they say quotient, that means divide. All right, so that's the second problem for us today. And if you guys have any questions, we're trying to keep our eyes on the live stream, on the chat. So just write anything that you guys, any questions you guys have, and we'll try to answer it while we are solving these problems on the video. And if you guys are finding these videos helpful, we're gonna ask that you smash the like button for us, and subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments for future videos you guys would like to see on the channel. All right. So we go over to question number 3 now. And question number 3 is going to deal with radicals and exponents. So here goes the question. Let's write it out real quick. All right. All right. So it asks us which answer choice is equivalent to the expression below. So what they're asking us is, hey, Mr. Peters, once you simplify this, you break it down, you try to solve, which one of these answer choices is going to be the same answer, okay? Or have the same value. So when we look here, guys, remember we're working with radicals. And if you don't see a number in the root, we have to assume it's 2. So understand that the square root of 16 is 4. So when I start simplifying, I'm going to have 4. And remember, this is a power of 2. So x squared, right? It's kind of like taking the square root of 5 squared. Answer is just 5. So this is the same concept that we're going to apply here because x times x gives us x squared. So the square root of x squared is just x, okay? So this simplifies to 4x. And then we have radical 27 over 3 radical 3. So at this step right here, we haven't finished this problem. What we need to do is now focus our attention onto radical 27. So I know that when I start breaking this down, right, we're going to have this radical 9 times radical 3 all over 3 radical 3. So understand, guys, that at this part, this is a perfect square. So we're going to simplify it, right? So once we simplify, we're going to get 4x. And I'm going to put a multiplication sign just so we won't forget, all right? Times 3 radical 3 all over 3 radical 3. So at this step here, there's something that we have to notice, right? We could cancel out our radicals and end up with our final answer of 4x. Or if you don't feel comfortable with fractions, let's see if we could multiply and get a similar answer, right? And let's switch colors so this bad boy sticks out. So let's say we multiplied these two and we had 12x radical 3 all over 3 radical 3. So the same thing will kind of apply, guys, right? When we divide, we would get 4x radical 3 over radical 3. And then if we go ahead and cancel out our radicals, we'll be left with the same answer of 4x. So just understand, more than one way to answer this problem. I'd rather pick this first way because there's less steps, meaning we're less likely to make an error. All right. But what we're going to do, I ain't going to say what we're going to do, but we're done with this problem, and our equivalent answer to this expression would be 4x. Okay. So let's go back and let's erase, and let's go on to the next problem. And one thing, guys, too, just try, if you can on the EOC, try to use process of elimination. I always tell my students that with these tests, there's always 2 answers that are just complete. They don't make sense, okay? I don't want to use any bad words. All right. So we've answered those first 3 problems. And our next problem is going to ask us, let's make sure. Oops. All right, our next problem is going to deal with functions. So it asks us to evaluate. So just remember that evaluate means to solve, to figure out, right? So evaluate f of 3 when f of x is equal to 4x squared minus 7. And like I said, you guys are going to want to see how I do this one, because as simple as it may seem, students make very, very simple mistakes on this. So let's go. Let's write down the answer choices. We have 1,842, 17, 137. That was an ugly one. I'm so sorry. And D, which is 29. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to solve it the wrong way first. Then I'm going to show you guys the correct way. So we're going to stay in blue for the wrong way. All right, so as we start this off, it tells us to solve this function when f of x is 3. So what they're saying is we're going to substitute 3 in everywhere that we see x. So 3 is going to be here. This is letting us know with, hey, when we plug 3 in for x, this is what we're going to get. So we substitute f of 3, and now we substitute it again for x. So what students will do, which is the wrong way, they forget order of operations and they multiply these two first. So what happens is they get f of 3 is equal to 12 squared minus 7. And as a result, we're going to get 144. And then once we subtract 7, we'll get 137 if I'm not mistaken. So this is the gimmick. This is how they're going to get a lot of us on the EOC. But guys, it's wrong. No, this is wrong. So I'm going to leave this up here. And I'm going to see if I can squeeze in this space right here and show you guys the correct way to do it. And you may have already figured it out. Let's just double check. So we're going to substitute, right? F of 3 is equal to 4 minus 3 squared. So when you remember PEMDAS, right? It still applies even though you may not have been practicing with it lately. We always have to start off with parentheses and exponents. So what that means is we have to square 3, right? We have to square 3. So once we square 3, we're going to get 4 times 9 minus 7. So we know that this is going to simplify to 36 minus 7. And once we simplify, the correct answer should actually be D, which is 29. So when you get some of these more simple equations, functions, just make sure that you guys slow down, right? Because they're going to try to throw something in there. And I want you guys to really look how we got two very different answers based off one multiplication step that we did wrong. All right. So please make sure that you guys follow PEMDAS when we're solving some of these equations and you have more than one step, more than one operation. Okay. All right. Okay. So my next problem now is going to ask us to factor. But the funny thing is about factor, hold on, factor the following polynomial. The funny thing is that when we do quizzes or we just do regular schoolwork with your teacher assignments, the factoring always just feels so much easier. But on the test, they always throw a curveball in. So the curveball today is that they gave us 4 terms, right? And typically we don't always see 4 terms often, but I'm definitely going to show you guys how to solve this properly. And you guys are not going to get it wrong on the EOC. Okay, so let's write our answer choices. Let me take the paper up so it can be a little faster. I apologize, guys. All right, x squared minus 7. All right, so we're talking about factoring. And like I said, I'm going to show you guys how to do this problem. But before I do that, if you found our video helpful so far, I'm going to ask that you guys smash the like button for us. Really appreciate you guys showing love to our channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. So what we're going to do to solve this problem is we are going to group these 4 terms into binomials. So we're going to put a parentheses here, and then we're going to put a parentheses here and not include that subtraction sign. So what we're going to do at this step is I'm going to check for a greatest common factor. So I'm going to now break down each of these 2 binomials separately. So I look here and I notice that I could take out x squared. And when I take out an x squared, What I'm left with inside is 2x plus 1. So we simplified the first binomial, right? Now we're going to go over to 14x minus 7. So at this step here, let's make sure. All right, at this step here, what we're now going to do is I'm going to take out 7, right? So when I take out 7, let's just write this first. I skipped the step, guys. I'm so sorry. So when I factor out a 7, what I'm left with inside is 2x plus 1. All right. And just understand when we're working with this negative, just multiply it back to make sure you get the same thing that is inside the parentheses. So negative when we multiply 7 and 2x, we're going to get a 14x. And when we multiply -7 by a positive 1, that's going to give us a -7, okay? So just please remember that. So the biggest thing to know that we're getting this right is that after we factor, right, we split it into 2 by 2, what's in parentheses should be the same. So this lets me know, all right, Peters, we did it right. So we know the first term or one of the factors, right? Not term, one of the factors is 2x plus 1. So let's cancel out C. And that's the only one that we could cancel so far. Oh, and let's cancel out B because when we look at B, this is 2x squared. There is no x squared. So now we know it's going to be either D or A. And this is why I say just use your process of elimination. It's going to make it so much more easier. So now all we have to do to finish off this problem is to write the second binomial as we see it. Basically what is left outside the parentheses. We're going to put it together. So once we do, we're going to have x squared minus 7. And just to double check, right? Because I know sometimes we feel like, oh man, Mr. Peters, you make it seem so easy. Let's just multiply it back and make sure. So 2x times x squared, we have 2x to the third. 2x times -7 minus 14x. 1 times x squared is x squared. And then 1 times -7 is -7. So let's look at it. We have 2x to the third, positive x squared, negative 14x, and -7. The only difference between what you see here and what you see right here is one is in standard form. And just while we're on the topic, standard form is when we write a polynomial in order from greatest to least by exponent, meaning x to the third power goes first, x to the second power, x to the first power, and then your number that does not have any exponent. Okay. All right. So we've done that problem, like I said. And if you guys have any questions, we're trying to keep our eyes on the chat. Love the support that you guys are doing for us. Let's go on to the next problem. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoying the show because I love teaching this math and I love helping you guys out and helping you all pass because that's what I'm here for. All right, so let's look for our next problem. All right, so next problem that we have, it tells us to identify, and let's just make sure, let's look at this other paper, let's just make sure. Okay. All right. I had this one. Where did I put this one? Let's see. All right, so I'm going to skip that problem real quick and go to the next one because I think I misplaced my paper. All right, okay. Okay. So with this problem, guys, what they're asking us to do is they'll say something like solve the equation for A or solve the equation in terms of A or rearrange the equation and solve for A. So what they're saying to us in this problem is, hey, we want you guys to rearrange this equation and set it up so that the equation says A is equal to. So you're basically trying to get A absolutely by itself. So when we look at this problem right here, the first thing I probably want to do is to move my B term to the other side by adding. So once I move my B term, I'm going to get 3B is equal to 4A minus 17. All right. And still not done yet. We're trying to get this A absolutely by itself, but it's attached to 4, and we also have to subtract 17. So what we need to do next is to move 17 to the other side, okay? So, and since it's negative, we're going to add. And we're going to go over here and add 17 too. And the reason that I did it like this is because a lot of students will make the minor mistake, right? And add 17 and 3b, but understand they are not like terms, guys. One has a B and the other term doesn't, so they're not like terms. So as a result, we have 3B plus 17 is equal to 4A. And just understand the order right here doesn't matter. If it was 17 plus 3B, that's absolutely fine. You're still going to come up with the same answer. The numbers or terms may just be in different order. But as long as you have the right sign, you'll definitely have the right answer. So let's move this up here now. So we have 3B plus 17 is equal to 4A. So just understand that we're almost there to solve for A because A is not completely by itself. It's attached to 4, meaning we have to multiply. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide 4A by A, and we go on the other side and we're going to do the same thing. But understand, we're not just dividing 3B by 4 or 17B by 4. No, we're dividing the whole entire left-hand side of this equation by 4. So now when we look, A is absolutely by itself because we we simplified and divided by 4. So A is equal to what we see here, which is 3B plus 17 divided by 4. Okay? So I'm going to do one more problem before we wrap it on up for today, guys. But like I said, thank you all so much for joining our live show, for being a part of our show, and recently watching all our videos. We appreciate the support. So let's see, what problem are we going to end off with today? Let's see. Oh, you know what? I really did like that problem. All right. So this problem is going to be, it's like a geometry problem, but it is really algebra because you have to include an equation. So I'm going to ask that you guys just be patient with me. Allow me to write this down verbatim so that you guys can really understand this, because this is a great problem to end off with. All right. So we're going to start this last problem. All right, so let's go through it. Let's see. All right, so we have an obtuse triangle, right? And I'm not a good drawer, so please, just this bear with me a little bit. All right, so we have an obtuse triangle, right? And it says that one of the angles of the obtuse triangle is 4 times the first angle. So we're just gonna randomly do it, right? So we have x, right? That's the first angle. And then we have another one that's 4 times the first angle. And then the last one, right? The third angle is 30 degrees less than the first. So whatever that first one is, we are going to subtract 30. Okay. So this is the first thing that we need to do, guys. We need to visualize. And I draw it out because that helps me to solve. So how do we now solve this problem? Well, how many degrees are in a triangle, right? And we should know that a triangle has 180 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with an equation, meaning we're going to do, now let's switch colors so this sticks out. All right. So we have x plus 4x minus 30 is now equal to 180 degrees. So this formula is going to be how we solve to figure out what x is, okay? And this is probably the more easier part, the actual solving. The hardest part about this problem is being able to visualize and come up with the equation. Once we know we had x, 4 times x, and x minus 30, that's the easier part to solve. So we're going to have 5x minus 30 is equal to 180. And just remember, we're solving like a regular equation. So let's add 30 on both sides, right? So now 5x is equal to, I believe that's 210, right? Yeah, 210. And now what we're going to do is we are going to divide by 5. So x is equal to, and let me grab my little quick calculator. Do I have one with me? All right, we'll just divide out real quick. Let's see. Make sure you guys have the calculator because even though I know you guys are so smart, you could do it in your head. Let's just make sure that we're right, okay? So 210 divided by 5 is going to give us 42. All right. So let's see if this works now. Let's see if this works. So 5x, let's see. 180 plus 30 divided by 5. Okay, it should be right. I think there's something. Did I do something wrong here? Let's see. Let me make sure. Hmm. All right, hold on, guys. Got to make sure I did this right. I do not want to mess you all up. All right, it should be right. 5x minus 30. Oh, I know what I did wrong, guys. All right, so I knew I did something wrong. Let's go back. This is on Mr. Peters, and this is why you need to check your work. And that's why I wanted to make sure. So what I forgot to do was add my x in. All right, so plus x minus 30 is equal to 180. So I do apologize, guys. It happens. We make mistakes. That's why it's important to check our work. So what we're going to get as a result is, I'm sorry, 6x minus 30 is equal to 180. And once we add 30 on both sides, we're going to get 6x is equal to 210. And I'm going to bring the trusted calculator back out. Let's see what we get this time. So we're going to get 35. So now when we divide by 6, x is equal to 35. All right, so this is this angle right here. So this is 35 degrees. And if we subtract 30, that means this angle is 5 degrees. And then let's see, 35 times 4 should give us 140 degrees. Let's make sure. Yep. And once we add 140 plus 35 and we add 5, we're going to get 180 degrees. And we know that's how much our triangle should be equal to. So like I said, guys, thank you so much for joining me on my live stream EOC review today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this last problem. And man, laugh at Mr. Peters, man, because we all make mistakes. Hopefully you stuck around for the whole video. And just remember to double check your work because this 1x almost had us in for a loop. So thank you guys for joining me today. We will be back next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another live stream, our fourth one of the year. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am Mr. Peters.